Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you'd like to support my channel, please check the link in the corner up there to my Patreon page. I'm here with a replay of round 1 of a modern competitive league, running my mono blue Merfolk. Let's go ahead and check out the opening hand. The opponent won the die roll, they're going to be on the play. This is a pretty beautiful Merfolk hand. One more land will turn on Master of Waves. Cursecatcher slows down potential early instants and sorceries. Spell Pierce is also nice turn 1. Okay, so untap Stomping Ground into Arbor Elf tells us we're playing against green-red Ponza, which is a really good matchup for us. Master of Waves lines up really well against Lightning Bolt. I don't think most of these decks are running main deck Bonfire of the Damned anymore. It might just be in the sideboard. But yeah, Master of Waves just does well against red removal. Our Spreading Seas are huge blowouts if they play Utopia Sprawl. And we've got plenty of targets for Spell Pierce. So I've actually learned the hard way over the many matches I've played against this deck that you want to be conservative against them. In the sense that if you have counter magic, you should hold it up. You can, of course, get punished. Like if next turn the opponent just runs out like a 3-drop creature like Tireless Tracker or Courser of Krufix, then not playing out the Cursecatcher, you can get punished. But especially since our hand is full of non-basic lands and green-red Ponza main decks for Blood Moons, we're going to go ahead, play out the Wanderwine Hub, revealing the Lord of Atlantis rather than the Cursecatcher because we don't want them to think there's a reason we're not playing out the Cursecatcher. For example, if the opponent has a creature in their hand and Blood Moon, and I reveal Cursecatcher but don't play it, that probably means I'm holding up Spell Pierce and they would just run out the creature instead. So I'm just going to show my Lord of Atlantis, sort of act like I'm a noob, and I feel like I have to reveal a Merfolk. You know, if I didn't have the Spell Pierce, you know, I might very well just bring Wanderwine Hub in tapped. Like there's no real reason if I don't have any action to bring it in untapped. But hey, let's reveal the Lord of Atlantis and pass the turn. This way, we can leave our Spell Pierce up. Okay, opponent's hitting their life total pretty hard with these shock lands. Opponent untaps the Stomping Grounds with Arbor Elf and goes for Blood Moon. So we're actually going to be able to counter this and play Magic. So very, very good call holding up the Spell Pierce. And another Cursecatcher is great here because getting more bodies out is going to be good because once we play a Lord, we can attack, you know, with more bodies, deal more damage. Also, Cursecatcher can slow down things like Monvuli, Acid Moss. It is a 4-drop spell. If they went for like land drop Molten Rain next turn or whatever their other land destruction spell is, I think it's Molten Rain. That's a 3-drop. We probably wouldn't sacrifice both Cursecatchers. We still have 2 lands to work with. Anyhow, this turn I'm just going to play out Cavern of Souls. If I had drawn Spell Pierce rather than Cursecatcher, I would just play 1 Cursecatcher with the Cavern and hold up blue mana for another Spell Pierce rather than running out the Lord of Atlantis. As I mentioned, you know, having these early game counter spells against Ponza is really solid. Especially, you know, in a hand that we really wanted to be able to defend our mana base against Blood Moon. All right, this Arbor Elf is doing work. Here's a Tireless Tracker. Happy not to see another Blood Moon. All right, so what are we going to draw? I should also mention the reason I didn't play Spreading Seas last turn, apart from wanting to get bodies on the board, was that we like to wait for them to play a Utopia Sprawl, because in that case we get to 3-for-1 them. We get to take them off of their colors for that land. We get to blow up the Utopia Sprawl, and we get to draw a card off of Spreading Seas. So very, very powerful if the opponent plays the Utopia Sprawl. So we want to sandbag the Spreading Seas in this situation here. So with the Tireless Tracker up, playing out the Lord and just jamming Cursecatchers into the red zone seems good because who's going to trade a Tireless Tracker for a Cursecatcher? Note that the opponent missed their land drop last turn. A little bit odd for the Ponza deck to miss land drops. There it is, Utopia Sprawl. And they're probably happy to see that because they seem to be stuck on lands here. Okay, what can they do with 4 mana? Courser, that's not too scary, but Forest on top means their mana gets opened up, they start gaining life. They still have 1 red floating from this double-tapped Stomping Ground. The opponent is getting a clue off of that forest. And that bolt is a little bit annoying. I could sack both Cursecatchers here, but chose not to. Opponent choosing not to get in with the Tireless Tracker. That's curious. Seems like just a mistake there. Not sure why they wouldn't attack with the Tireless Tracker. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Spreading Seas here, hoping just to draw into another 2-drop, develop some more devotion. We get to, as I mentioned, 3-for-1 them by blowing up the Utopia Sprawl. Not exactly a 3-for-1 since they still get to use this land for generic mana. But it's just super powerful. On top of the normal value in Spreading Seas, which is usually pretty great against non-blue decks, we also get to blow up one of their cards. And we drew another Spreading Seas, so we're setting ourselves up for a beautiful Master of Waves here, and hurting the opponent's mana quite a bit. Okay, so there's a Reejerey. No attacks yet. We see a Bloodbraid Elf on the top. After, let's see. I think we saw that Windswept Heath on top. The opponent drew it for the turn, played it, gained some life, created a clue. Is cracking a clue here with the 2 islands that he has. There is a Stone Rain on top. So that's the one I was thinking of, not Molten Rain. I think Molten Rain is the one that deals damage to us if it's non-basic. But it costs red instead of just single red. Okay, what is the opponent doing here? Right, gaining more life, creating more clues. They have 1 green floating. All right, so there's a Stone Rain. You know, sometimes watching these replays, I catch things that I missed during the match. Like, why did I not sacrifice a Cursecatcher there? That's just wrong. Opponent had no more floating mana. I had 2 counter spells on the board. If I kept 4 lands, sack 1 Cursecatcher, I get to play Master of Waves next turn for 4 tokens. Seems pretty solid. As it stands, I'm left having to top deck a land. Man, that was poor play. The opponent is going to get in here now. Not afraid of these Cursecatchers anymore. Man, I really should have sacked that Cursecatcher. Normally, I'm on like tip of my toes, just like totally just waiting for any opportunity to sack these guys and get value since they've already attacked for a bunch of damage. But yeah, I was asleep at the wheel for that Stone Rain. Well, we drew a Reejerey and not a land, so we'll just play out Reejerey and get in for 4 points here. Let's see, he's going to go down to 8, and with this Reejerey in hand, these guys go up to 9 next turn, so that's potentially lethal. We see the opponent's going to draw a forest this turn. Of course, they gain 1 life. Still lethal next turn with the second Lord. Making lots of clues here. Drawing a card, making Tireless Tracker bigger. We see the Stone Rain on top again. Here's another Utopia Sprawl. Those things are real liabilities in this matchup against Merfolk. So, but for this turn, he's going to make a lot of mana with it. Okay, so he's up to 5. And here's Stormbreath Dragon. So I'm not really that afraid of this thing right now. Couldn't have countered that with Cursecatcher, by the way. So if he gets in, let's say he just leaves up blocks, then if I top deck an Island Walk Lord, he's dead. That can't feel too good in his position. If I top deck a land, he doesn't know about this Master of Waves, but things are going to get a little bit out of hand. If he attacks with just the Stormbreath Dragon, I can cast a Merfolk and tap one of his other blockers, push some damage past the Courser. But it'd be hard to get lethal unless we get an Island Walk Lord. But here we see a really good example of people not respecting the power of Merrow Reejerey. Opponent's getting in for 9 here, and he just turned the Reejerey in our hand into lethal, like, without question. So I'm gonna tap their blocker. We don't need an Island Walk Lord anymore, basically, is the point I'm making. And we drew another Reejerey, just to sort of hammer it home. Let's tap that Courser. Our guys are going to be 3/3s, but the opponent scooped before Merrow Reejerey even resolved. So a really dumb misstep on my part. I should have sacked the Cursecatcher, kept my 4 lands, and then instead of playing a Merrow Reejerey one turn, I would have jammed Master of Waves, netting, what? I guess at that point it would have been 4 tokens. It just seems better. It jams up the board. Lets us go wide. We would have been able to follow up with Reejereys as I kept drawing into those guys. Yeah, but as it went, Reejerey did a pretty good job anyway, despite my misplay. So that was game 1 of round 1. Look away if you don't want to see the match result. Okay, so let me first check out the sideboard here. Okay, so what's the plan here? So I tried out some tech in this round. I read this Frank Carson article after having heard about this a few times already anyway, saying that if you're on the draw, you can very comfortably side out one of your lands. The extra card draw, as far as making sure that you hit your desired sort of land drops. In the case of Merfolk, with 20 lands, we should expect to hit, our 3rd land drop on time. Hitting our 4th land drop on time happens, but we can't really guarantee it being on the play. But on the draw, taking out 1 land, the math stays pretty much the same as far as with 19 lands in the deck, hitting those land drops. And of course, taking a land out lets you keep more gas in the deck. So I brought in 3 negates. Took out first, what did I take out? I took out 4 Cursecatchers. They're not countering a ton of stuff. They can counter, I guess, those Monvuli, Acid Moss, and Stone Rain, stuff like that. But Ponza is kind of a ramp deck, right? They play tons of Utopia Sprawls, Arbor Elves, Birds of Paradise, so they just get tons and tons of mana. And Cursecatcher can't really effectively counter things a lot of the time, especially on the draw, right? It's just pretty bad. So we took out 4 Cursecatchers and 2 Kiras. So 6 cards out. We brought in 3 negates. And what are the other 3 cards? I'm tired this morning. Okay, so it's not Ceremonious. Oh, so I brought in 2 Echoing Truths, 2 Dismembers, and 3 negates. So like I said, 7 cards. Of course, I took out one of the 1 land. So 7 cards out, 2 Echoing Truths, 2 Dispel, 2 Dismembers, and then 3 negates. So 7 in, 7 out. That's the plan. This is a pretty beautiful hand against Ponza. If they play Blood Moon, it's pretty bad since we have no basic islands yet. But in this build, I have 7, but I'm planning on going back up to 8 basic islands. Opponent mulligan, that's also helpful. But even if he lands a Blood Moon, we have an Aether Vial to be able to get threats on the board. And if he doesn't have Blood Moon, these double spreading seas can really just ruin his day. And of course, we have this negate as like a bonus. They try to cast Garrick or something like that. All right, so the opponent did mulligan to 6, and we're going to go ahead and check what they do with their scry. They didn't like it very much. So what do they got? Turn 1. All right, well, they have their ramp. There's an Arbor Elf. I'm going to lead with Mutavault here. I drew into the basic island. So that changed my calculus a little bit as far as which land I'd want to open with. Leading with Mutavault seems the least likely to sort of bait a Blood Moon, and that's something I kind of want to do in this spot, having drawn the basic island, because I don't have any double blue spells in my hand, and I do have the Aether Vial, so if the opponent wants to jam Blood Moon and turn Mutavault off with the hope of sort of screwing my mana, then go for it, you know? I'll jam my island and keep playing spells next turn. Okay, they have another land drop. Again, this is on a mulligan to 6 here. They go down to 16 to get a Stomping Ground. Utopia Sprawl. I feel like this guy's been naming red throughout, yeah. So, well, he gets to make 4 mana here. All right, a turn 2 Bloodbraid Elf. This is the first time I've ever seen this happen in Modern. So he gets the Cascade. It's pretty strong, but he only hits a Lightning Bolt. So that's about as lucky as we could have gotten. Just a 1-drop bolt to the face. Doesn't even kill one of our creatures. Of course, the opponent gets to attack with Bloodbraid Elf, and this is a very explosive start. From what's typically kind of a slow, like, prison-y deck. You know, this is pretty aggro. Already down to 14, but the opponent played that Utopia Sprawl, and we're just ticking up AEther Vial and deploying lands to eventually get a huge Master of Waves. So our play is pretty clearly lined out for us this turn. Drew another land. We still want to bait that Blood Moon if possible. Go ahead and kill their Utopia Sprawl, draw a card, tons of value. Another counterspell. I don't even know if I'm going to need these things this game. The opponent's going like Creature Beatdown. Okay, opponent's down to 2 cards. There's a Mountain on the top of the deck. He's going to play that using Courser's ability, and we see an Obstinate Baloth. Now, this is really sweet for us because this second Spreading Seas can hit his his only Stomping Ground, his second green source, keeping him off of green mana. Unless there's a land under this Baloth, he's going to be totally stuck without any green mana next turn. So, opponent gets to get in again after casting the Courser. I'm going to go from 14 down to 11. Now, it is a fast clock, but we've got excellent tempo on this game with AEther Vial and blowing up the Utopia Sprawl. Hey, Reejerey is going to encourage me to take up my AEther Vial next turn. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and put that Spreading Seas on his only remaining green source of mana. And another basic island. So at this point, we're totally 100% set on lands. Just play our island and pass the turn. Now we're going to get smacked this turn since we don't have any creatures on the board. The opponent drew that Baloth and revealed a Finks below it, so it's not going to be able to play any green spells this turn. Now turning the Arbor Elf sideways is bold. Maybe he has a bolt in his hand in case I throw out a Lord and just try to, eat the Arbor Elf. But maybe the opponent just feels super jammed up, and with me, I guess it makes sense, right? Because the Arbor Elf has become virtually useless with no green mana in sight. So, yeah, why not attack with it, I guess? If it gets eaten, so be it. He's just rolling the dice. I think that's a good play by the opponent. I'm going to take the AEther Vial up here. Unfortunately, we drew a Silvergill Adept. It would have been great if we had AEther Vial on 2 still, but let's get this guy on the board. I'll play that land and just jam this Master of Waves. I'll try to untap an island even though I have nothing to do with it. Okay, the opponent did have a Lightning Bolt in the event that I had thrown a blocker, tried to throw a blocker in front of Arbor Elf, so I guess attacking with the Elf was actually completely correct. But now the opponent is on 2 cards, and I'm going to have protection from red and a bunch of tokens. Wonder if the opponent remembered that I had the 2 Spreading Seas for Devotion, or if he was surprised when the 3 elementals hit the board. The opponent again revealing not a green land on top. The Stone Raining Mutavault, sort of fine at this point. I doubt the opponent would attack in this spot. And these Spreading Seas are just winning the game for us. We'll go ahead and take AEther Vial up to 4 here, I think. And second Master of Waves is pretty awesome. I think what I'm going to do is cast the Silvergill Adept and just reveal the Master of Waves. It's the fact that the opponent knows about it, it doesn't really create a disadvantage for us. It just kind of breaks the opponent's heart. Spreading Seas on his only remaining land. So we are the prison deck this game. And Island Walk Lord, because why not? Double negate. Bloodbraid Elf on top is a slap in the face for the opponent. Doesn't work if you don't have any mana to cast spells. Here's the Master of Waves. This time it's going to be for six elementals. And let's see, even with nothing else, the opponent blocks 3 of our biggest creatures. 1, 2, 3. We've still got 18 left around the edges just with elementals, right? Yeah. So this is all unnecessary at this point. And the opponent scooped in the face of Island Walks. So yeah, that was round 1 against Green-Red Ponza. I feel like it's one of our better matchups. We can still get caught if we have a bad hand with only non-basic lands and they just slam a Blood Moon and we don't have AEther Vial. Those are a lot of ifs, you know, like this game, for example, is super typical. About 4 lands, about half of them are islands. AEther Vial, not very uncommon for us to play. Spreading Seas, I think we blew up a Utopia Sprawl. I think that happened in the last game also. So yeah, it's a very good matchup because we get that value on the Utopia Sprawl, and protection from red with Master of Waves is really solid. And yeah, the Blood Moon just does nothing. This deck is designed to beat decks like Tron and Jund that play tons of non-basics, where Blood Moon can actually just get free wins. But Blood Moon is pretty much never going to get a free win against Merfolk. So please let me know your thoughts on the match. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please visit my Patreon page and tune in for the next video where I'll be back with round 2 of this modern competitive league. Thanks, guys. I'll see you there. Bye.